to just move into our next session. Next up, it is Christine DeBella discussing recent updates and what's to come in ArchivesSpace. I'm not going to waste any more of your time, Christine, and I'll just turn it over to you.
Thanks, Jessica. And this is a far less exciting presentation than the presentations you've been hearing today, but I will give it nonetheless. So the idea behind this presentation is we know that people get a lot of ArchivesSpace related emails. We know that release notes are long and not everybody reads those. So I just wanted to highlight a few of the things that have come out in ArchivesSpace recently. And the other thing that I wanted to do was also shout out, point out some of the humans that make those possible. So Jessica said that I made her deeply uncomfortable this morning by saying how great she is. Well, I'm going to make some other people deeply uncomfortable. So first off, so 2.80 is our latest release, and that came out, I think, about 2 weeks ago. I don't know, time has no meaning, of course. But it came out very recently. It was still July at the time. And 2.80 is the first release that was entirely shepherded by our current development team, who are Laura Woodford and Mark Cooper. Many of you know that Lady McGlowan, our much loved technical lead, left earlier in the year. And so Laura and Mark are the primary people doing development on the ArchivesSpace program team now. We have many other developers that we work with, of course. This 2.80 features code from 18 different community developers, contractors, and ArchivesSpace team members as well. So new in 8.0, some of the things that are in there. Merging top containers is in there. It's new. It's something that people have been asking for a long time. This is in the managing top containers area. It's a new bulk operation that you can do there. You can merge 2 top containers. You can merge 100 top containers into one. It's pretty powerful functionality for those who have lots of containers in ArchivesSpace, especially if you're doing cleanup on your containers. This work was done by Laura Woodford, who is our junior developer. She not only writes code, but she's also taken on an increased role since Lainey left in supervising contractor projects and assigning pull requests to our core committers for review. Another thing that is in 2.80 is being able to import spreadsheets into resources, which many people have been able to do for a while through the Harvard import plugin, but now this is core functionality in ArchivesSpace. You don't have to install a plugin to do this now. You don't have to keep on top of what's sort of going on in a separate parallel area to be able to do this functionality. It's now part of ArchivesSpace and will be improved with ArchivesSpace as time goes on and maintained by the ArchivesSpace program. This is shout out to Bobby Fox, who worked with us as a contractor. She was the original developer of that plugin. So many of you would know her name already, but even if you don't, you've probably been blessing and thanking her for a while. Also new in 2.80 is that the search operator in the public user interface is now and by default. So when you put 2 words into the search box in the public user interface, instead of getting all results that have either one of those words, you're only getting results that have both of those words. This is also something that had been asked for a while. We did change that based on feedback, and as I said, people have been asking for a while. But you can still change that back to or in your configuration file if you prefer. This particular code was thanks to Mark Cooper, who I mentioned is working with us as part of the development team now. He worked with us closely before Lainey's departure, but now he's working with us nearly full time since March. Two other things that were both, the code was worked on extensively by one person. The background jobs area, if you go there now, you'll see that it has much more information about the background jobs themselves. So you can find out more about what the job was and do some sorting and filtering by type of job in ways that you couldn't before. The other thing in that sort of behind the scenes area, you now have many more preferences that you can set, including some things that you couldn't set before, including preferences for searches, as well as being able to add dates and extents and an actual sort preference to the preferences area of the application. And this code was substantially helped by Lainey and Laura as well, but it was originally conceived and implemented by Sarah Morrissey, who started with us as a co-op student and stayed on with us as a part-time junior developer for a while. And now she's moved on to a full-time software engineer position. She graduated from Georgia Tech in the spring. So something that might hit you right in the face when you use 2.80 of ArchivesSpace is there is a new login screen there. The idea of this was to improve the login experience on mobile devices and also provide better accessibility across any kind of device. So the work for this, the code for this, was done by Brian Zellup, who has been working with us as a contractor on some items that require JavaScript skills. I also want to give a sort of spotlight shout out to some community developers. And I apologize that I won't mention every single person who put code into ArchivesSpace, but these are some people that I am deeply making uncomfortable right now. But one of the people is Andrew Morrison of the University of Oxford. If you go to our release notes, you'll see that there's essentially like a whole paragraph about the things that he put into 2.80. Some improvements on the public interface side, some improvements on the staff interface side. It's rare that we have a community developer who's able to put more than a half dozen excellent pull requests into one release. But he did that, and we're incredibly thankful to all his efforts. Andrew is also a new member of our technical advisory council, so you'll probably see him popping up in some of our other efforts as well. And I also wanted to call out the work of developers and archivists at Harvard University who circulated a specification for improvements to the locations and containers area of ArchivesSpace last year, and implemented, sort of revised that and rethought it in different ways based on the feedback that they got. The first set of improvements went into 2.80, and we expect the rest of them will likely go into the next release beyond this. So there are a bunch of developers that worked on that, and I apologize if there are any Harvard developers that I missed that worked on this project, but the ones that specifically that we know of who submitted pull requests are Katie Amaral, Dee Dee Crema, Dave Mayo, Douglas Simon, Michael Vandermillen, and Robin Wendler, who's the project manager on this, for working to make sure that the code that their users wanted would also work for the core code of ArchivesSpace. And so things that they were doing to make their ArchivesSpace better for their users could make ArchivesSpace better for everyone. So I'll just mention, yep, we're working towards the next release now, because application development is like the post office, it never stops. So we're working on the next release of ArchivesSpace. We're projecting that for the fall. Whether that's going to be early fall or late fall, I really couldn't say now. A lot is dependent on sort of the results of testing that we're doing right now. In all likelihood, it's going to be ArchivesSpace 3.0. So don't be scared of that number change, but it's a reflection of some really significant work that's going on in the agents area that you've been hearing about for a while, but now the time is coming that it will be in the next release. So that expanded agents work is going to significantly improve support for EAC, CPF, and Mark Authority records as well. Right now, we don't know everything that's going to go into that next release, but some things that we do know that we have a high degree of confidence on will be there are some enhancements to that spreadsheet importer, including adding a validator to it, some infrastructure improvements to the application. We also expect the remaining pieces of the containers and locations work that Harvard's doing right now to be in there. And then there will surely be other things as well. I'm mostly focusing on the technical side, the application side in this presentation, but I definitely wanted to call out, again, make Jessica deeply uncomfortable again, but wanted to call out just how many programs we've had this year and how essential they've been when so many have been disconnected from their usual sources of help and connection in their offices, in their institutions. So thousands of people have reached out this year by attending programs, visiting our new help center, participating in discussions on our listservs, or coming to Friday breaks, or just asking individual questions of one of the team members. So I wanted to thank Jessica for all the work that she does to keep that running smoothly. And I also wanted to point out that we have a new sub-team happening this year in our User Advisory Council. And Brittany Newberry, who's our council chair, will be working with Jessica to have that evolve and probably be reaching out to the user community in new and different ways as that comes together. So what's going to happen this year? There's certain things we know are going to happen, and there's certain things, life is what it is. But here are some of the things that we know are going to happen and we know we're working on. So we're definitely working to incorporate anti-racism and inclusion efforts into the core work of ArchivesSpace. So if you're coming to discussions tomorrow, you may have noticed that we have a continuation of our discussions from on and before our June 24th open call happening tomorrow. We're also launching a feedback form tomorrow where you can provide additional thoughts on specific proposals that people have put forward. We're looking forward to making those, some of them are easy to do. We can enact them right now. Some of them require sort of participation across the ArchivesSpace community or involvement of the ArchivesSpace Governance Board in terms of setting financial priorities. So, but we are moving forward with different things there, and we need your feedback. Please provide feedback and get involved, though, however feels right to you. There's a lot going on right now, and we know not everybody can do everything that they want to be involved in, but please, get involved however does feel right and possible for you right now. We are also participating, you may have seen an announcement last week, and the previous week possibly too, that the Building a National Finding Aid Network project that's led by the California Digital Library has been funded by IMLS. That's a 2-year project. ArchivesSpace is serving as a technical advisor on that project. So that project is going to involve many of the different regional aggregators in which your institutions participate. So there's going to be hopefully lots of good things that come out of it, but at the bare minimum, making it easier to aggregate archival description from ArchivesSpace should be one of the possible positive outcomes there. We also, our friends at ArchivesSpace, which is a collection management system specifically coming out of and intended for the museum community, or really anyone who has to manage artifact collections. Some of you listening in today, maybe you're responsible for managing both archives and artifact collections. We have some efforts coming up with them. So there's a survey that they have put together but we're very happy to promote and encourage you to respond to if that sounds like, a situation that you're in. And then we also have a webinar coming in the fall to kind of gather more ideas to help ArchivesSpace figure out some of their steps forward in this area. So that's really all I have to say right now. I just wanted to say one last thing, which is I just wanted to say thanks. Thank you for doing what you can, whenever and wherever you can. And thanks for the work that you do to balance ArchivesSpace and this community with everything else that you're holding up right now. And thanks for recognizing that the ArchivesSpace team, we're in that same situation too. We're doing what we can too. But thanks very much for being part of this community. So with that said, if there are questions, I'm happy to answer questions. And then, as always, you can reach out to me or someone else on the team, as needed. So thank you.
Thanks, Christine. There are not any questions in the Q&A right now, so we're going to go ahead and transition right into our final session. Of course, if you do have any questions for Christine or the ArchivesSpace program team, we are very easy to get in contact with, so feel free to drop something in the Q&A now or go ahead